Welcome back to Unfiltered, Unspoken podcast, where we told you we're going to continue to share life experience. I see that smile. You like that intro?
I love it. I love it.
Did you see the butterflies?
Yes, I saw everything. I loved it.
Thank you. You
See,
want to
Pop loved this too.
see? Hey, Pop Pop. We have another amazing testimony, and we've been trying to get Tywanah on here for a while. It's been over a year, so she is finally here. So, Tywanah, if you could come up, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then, as you know, City Sid is going to kick off that first question.
Absolutely. Well, hello, everyone. First of all, thank you to you beautiful women for having me here. I've been really excited about this episode. I am Tywanah Evette. I also go by Black Butterfly Goddess. I am a fourth generation intuitive healer, psychic medium, spiritual guide, published author, and motivational speaker. So I come from a long line of psychics, and I'm just really grateful to be here today. I do coaching, I do teaching, I do a lot of things. So we'll get into it. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you again for joining us here. So as we do with all of our guests, we do like to kind of start from the beginning with everyone. Let us know how your upbringing was like, your home structure, if you experienced any trauma as an adolescent, and I guess a little bit about when you first started noticing your talents and gifts.
Oh, yeah. So where did we start? I come from a very abusive home. My mother left my natural father somewhere where I was around 2.5 years old, and was with a gentleman who I knew as daddy. He never tried to tell me he wasn't my father. And when my daddy was in my life, I could do anything. He was big and strong and never told me no. And my daddy was amazing. At 9.5 years old, this man comes looking for me. He says he's my father. I was terrified the moment I met him. There was something seriously off. I hugged his girlfriend, but I hid behind my Nana when it came time for him to interact with me. And I did not. There was just something wrong about this man. I didn't want to interact with him. My mother went through a nervous breakdown shortly after that, and we moved to Seattle. And she decided to go to nursing school. So she went to nursing school and sent me back to New York City to live with this man. The first night I was there, I could hear an argument between my father and his ex-girlfriend, girlfriend at the time. She was a really sweet lady. And she was like, no, you're not going to do that this time, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden she's leaving with like laundry baskets and trash bags. And she goes, baby girl, I'll be back every week to do your hair. I tried to stay. I didn't know what that meant at 10 years old. I was really puzzled as to what was going on, not to mention I'm missing my mother because I don't know this man. I found out that night. He got very drunk, stumbled into my room, and climbed in bed with me. I remember fighting, but my little 10-year-old fists weren't strong enough. I remember trying to move and trying to get away from him, but my little body wasn't strong enough. My father took my virginity that night. My mother came back shortly after that. And I couldn't tell her because I did tell my 5th grade teacher the day after. Antoinette Antasovsky, Far Rockaway, New York. She laughed at me. Her and the guidance counselor laughed at me. Ha ha ha. Your father's a deacon at this church. He could never. He works for immigration. You're an active kid. You fell off your bike. Ha ha ha. That was the day I shut up. He blackmailed my mother into remarrying him by saying, when she came back to New York, "You're still in school for nursing. I have a job. Who do you think the judge is going to believe when it comes to her care?" And so my mother was forced to marry him. I begged her not to. She didn't know why. I just begged her not to. Fast forward 5 years later, I miss my cycle. I go and get a test and it's positive. I am carrying my father's child. And
Can I
absolutely.
Can we hold right there? We're gonna come back into that real quick, okay? I want to know, at 10 years old, going to school and no one believes you, how did that make you feel?
I've never felt so small, so insignificant, so worthless. I just knew no one would ever believe me.
Now, was it, what was, if you found, what was your mom's actual, reason for saying that she couldn't really, take it? Like, was there signs that he was going to do this to you prior to, like, I don't, what?
That she couldn't take what?
When she left, why she left, obviously, I don't think she knew he would do that to you. But what was her reasoning as to why she, left you with him, or felt like she couldn't take the atmosphere?
Sent me back because she was going to nursing school. Nursing school was usually at nights after work, and she didn't want the responsibility of a 10-year-old to be on my aunt and uncle.
Okay. Can I ask, before we jump into the 5 years later, did you ever tell your mother what had happened to you? Never. So she still does.
It kept going on. It kept going on.
Okay. So you've moved. So your mom has moved back. Dad has bribed mom into marry him, and he's molesting you while she's in the household.
While she's at work.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, where she worked night shifts. When you first get your nursing certification, you work nights. So she worked night shift, which was perfect time for him to get drunk and go ahead and play like I was the one who was his wife. So yeah, that's why it continued on, and I never shared it with mom because I didn't want her to be hurt.
Now, what was, the reaction or atmosphere when you did find out you were pregnant? And was it even something that you like understood at the time, like, or understood the gravity of, like, what was your kind of mind frame finding everything out as it was developing?
Get this thing out of me. That's all I wanted, was to get that thing out of me. I couldn't call it a child at the time. I was 15. And so I made an appointment, and my best friend went with me to eliminate that fetus.
Now, did your dad know that you were pregnant?
No.
And you never told anyone but your best friend?
Best friend found out 2 years ago. I never told anyone. I never
So,
told anyone.
so she
I
just
told,
thought you were pregnant, but by someone else.
yeah, she thought it was for my boyfriend. My boyfriend had never touched me. I did tell my mother a couple of days after that he had been going to bed with me. My mom at that time, by then, had a terminal diagnosis and was very dependent upon him for medical care. So taking me and moving into an apartment was not feasible. So I chose to go live in the group homes in New York City because I could not live there. I couldn't do it anymore.
And what was that like? You know, did you find that to be any better than the situation you were in?
Better slightly, but it had its own challenges. It came with its own disturbances. I was beaten so bad in one of them that my brother-in-law and sister had to come pick me up until I could be transferred. So it had its own challenges, but I got out when I got pregnant with my daughter. I got out and started real life.
I want to go back. You said that your dad was a pastor.
Deacon.
He was a deacon. Were you the only one that he was molesting that you know of?
No.
No?
My brother transitioned because he didn't know how to deal with it.
Hold on. So you had a sibling, you had a brother.
And a sister.
So your dad was molesting your brother and sister?
Yes, but they are from his first marriage.
So they're not.
When their mother found out, I can't say what she did on here.
My gosh, today. Well,
I can't say what her reaction was on here.
Did she hurt him?
Yes. But yeah. That side of the family, and I call her my stepmother because I don't know what else to call her. You know, she's not, we had a relationship, so it's not like, you know, oh, my father's ex-wife. No, we had a beautiful relationship. She loved me. She worked for defects. She called in a favor and got me in a good, you know, one of the better group homes after I got beat. So I call her my stepmom, but she was a beautiful soul and she loved me deeply.
So, you know, with you not telling anybody about this for the most part, what were your, outlets or vices, if any? In what ways did you maybe self-destruct?
I picked terrible people. Oh my goodness. I picked horrible people as friends, as significant others. I mean, if it was the bottom of the barrel, I found it. I kept trying to be in a relationship because I didn't know what love was. And I thought that that's where you find love. But all I found was more destruction there. So I didn't drink. I didn't, smoke. I didn't do any of that. I had health issue after health issue because I was holding on to this huge secret that everyone found out between 2 and 3 years ago. The first person I ever told was my ex-boyfriend. And yeah, that was it. It wasn't until after him that I started sharing with my family, and my siblings on my father's side nearly fell to their knees when they heard. My best friend who went with me did fall to her knees in the airport when I told her. Part of her knew, though. She said she thought it, but she didn't want to ask me.
I want to go back because there are a lot of youth that go through this and have been through this, and they struggle in life, and I want to bring as much transparency as we can
Yes.
through this. You said you had your brother.
Mm-hmm.
Mention your brother. He took his life because he couldn't cope with.
He didn't. He did take his life, but he didn't. He had heroin addiction.
So the heroin addiction was from
the trauma.
Were you and your brother real close?
I was 10 and he was older. I only met him when I was 9. So not super close.
Okay.
Close enough. He was funny. He was a tricky, he liked to hide stuff from you or whatever and watch you look for it and things like that. He was like a trickster. He was the goofball. And yeah.
Did he ever mention it? Did he ever mention to anyone what his dad did?
His mother knew.
So she knew that's why he got addicted to drugs.
Yes. Yes.
And we're just audience. We want to bring transparency of that because a lot of people that go through sexual addictions, they can turn into so many different factors. So
it's very easy.
Yeah.
It's why I never turned, like, I never even smoked anything because I was afraid that I would try to find an escape from my truth. So it was why I didn't even try anything.
Were there any, or was there any, significant trauma with your other sibling as well? But you said it was a sister.
Yes.
Did she share mother with your brother? Oh, okay.
Yes.
So that reprimand was for both of them, I assume.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right now, was there, any particular kind of story about that, or did you have a close relationship with her?
I have a very close relationship with her, but I don't like sharing her story because it would be easy to figure out who it is.
Understood. Now, you did say kind of when you were in group homes, I do believe you said that you did get pregnant there.
Yes, I did when I was 17.
Okay.
I got pregnant with my daughter.
And what were the circumstances, around that? And being as though you said, you made horrible choices. So
yes,
it was. I assume that may have been one.
The circumstances was I was looking for something to love me. That was it. I had my daughter because I thought that would bring me love. If it comes out of me, it has to love me, right? But that's, again, I had the emotional intelligence of a 15-year-old. So you have to think about that. I had the my emotional intelligence was stunted at 15.
I want to come back. Sid probably will hit it first, but I want to go back one notch and then come back. You mentioned that you were beat up very badly in a group home. Can you tell us what happened and what led to that?
I came back home from pass. I was allowed weekend passes to my stepmother's house and to my siblings' homes on my father's side. And they had all been cleared by the state for me to go to their house on weekends or, whenever I didn't have school breaks, holidays, whatever. And I had just come back and realized that one young lady had stolen a bunch of things that my stepmom gave me, like real pretty bralettes and perfumes. And you remember the cucumber melon, because we all smelled like that back in the 90s. And I had all of that stuff and she stole it. And when I confronted her, I couldn't win that fight. That girl had lived in group homes her whole life, so she was a better scrapper than I was.
And what was your thought process around, the termination of your pregnancy? Was it something you were able to kind of, know was not right for you and just kind of pick up your bootstraps, or did it heavily affect you in ways?
The pregnancy itself didn't affect me, because to me it was a thing, and once it got out of me, I was okay. The termination did not bother me until a few years ago, when I realized the weight of it, when I started sharing.
So, what was life like becoming a mom at 17, intellectually immature? How did that? What was the next steps into being a parent and through group homes and being troubled?
We were signed out when she was 2 days old, when I was discharged from the hospital. Her grandmother said no grandchild of mine is going to live in a group home. So she allowed New York City to comb through her finances and all her personal business to get approved for me and the baby to come live at her house, the child's father's mother. I felt important when I had my daughter. I felt like I was important. That was the change. And I remember getting up to go to the bathroom right after having her, and they had just wheeled her by my side. And when I looked down in the little clear bed, she was looking at me like, okay, you did it. Now what's next? And that was when I realized I've got to live for her. I've got to make every sacrifice I can. She deserves so much. And so I made the best decisions that I could. Again, with the emotional intelligence of a 15-year-old. But attracted a lot of the wrong people. And that was because of I didn't love myself. Like, you want to be real about it? I didn't love me. I hated me. I thought there was nothing good in me. I knew nobody was going to love me as I am now. Who I am now is who I should have been 30 years ago. Nobody would have loved this version of me. So I had to hide and wear masks, wear a different mask for everybody. Oh, I'm in front of my sister now. I have to act perfect. Oh, I'm in front of my brother now. You know, I got to act like my life is okay. I should be an Emmy Award winning actress by now.
Understood. So what was, the next step for you after having the baby? What were you guys still in a relationship, or how did that develop?
No, we weren't. We weren't in a relationship. He and I have agreed on one thing. She's 32 next month. He and I have agreed on one thing in her 32 years of life. So no, that relationship was a no-go. But I raised her. I got married at 21. He was very abusive. Discharged from the military for psych issues. And that was a whole thing in and of itself. Trying to figure out where I fit in.
So you mentioned he was abusive.
Yes.
Are you open to talking about the abuse?
Girl, I told you, I'm an open book now. I don't nothing about my life is off limits.
Can you tell us some of the forms of abuse that you went through?
Choking me, spitting in my face, making it so that I was forced for his family to move in with me, even though it was my house. But the last act was the one that finally made me leave, which was holding me on my knees at pew point for 3 hours while I begged him for my children's lives, because he wasn't going to take my life. He was going to take theirs.
What?
What led up to that? What nothing would really warrant that, but what did he believe warranted that?
He wanted the last 11 diet pills I had.
To do what?
He was gaining weight because he was eating like everything. And he wanted the last 11 diet pills that I had. And I wouldn't give it to him. And so I walked in the bathroom and he pulled the piece from behind his back. And I still can't have my temperature taken here.
Why is that?
Because that cold steel 9mm stayed right here for 3 hours. Glock, sorry.
What?
Mm-hmm. While I begged for their lives.
While you were sitting there 3 hours,
I was on my knees.
To your head on your knees.
Yes.
What were the emotions going through your body at that time?
I just don't hurt my kids. You could take me out. I don't even care. But not my kids. Not my babies.
And I assume, being as though he was released because of psych issues, what other kind of signs had you seen, or what did you, what was his diagnosis exactly, and how did that really affect you and, the family unit?
Bipolar schizophrenic, and it had a great impact on my children's lives. And I used to be the breadwinner. and we moved to Atlanta. I built a house, me. Not his money, me. From when I worked for presidential appointees. And I was on my way to work one morning. The kids were in the car with me. And I looked up. I had just said to them, what do you guys want from Starbucks? And then I looked up to see if it was my turn to go. I was at a 4-way stop sign waiting my turn, and I saw headlights. I had 10 seconds to react. God, if anybody has to be hurt, let it be me, not my kids. And then I put the car, I heard someone say, put the car in reverse. And that's what I did. And she hit us. She hit us so hard, the Chrysler emblem was lodged in my windshield. I just had surgery number 37 in September. I will never be completely pain-free. They can never fix the problem because I have titanium and bone sitting on my sciatic nerve. So to go in and try to fix that would do more harm. The best they can do is keep me comfortable. So once that accident happened, he had me. Once I lost my ability to provide, he had me where he wanted me.
Hold on. I'm sorry. You were sitting at a stop sign with your kids. Lady came on the wrong side. Was she drunk on drugs?
Just stupid.
She was speeding?
Yeah, she was flying. Like I could see the headlights coming at a crazy fast rate. Like when I tell you I looked and I'm like, because I was like, what y'all want from Starbucks when we get there? And I looked and I said to my daughter in the front, I said, she's going to hit us. And then I said, God, if anybody has to be hurt, let it be me, not the kids. And then I heard a voice say, put the car in reverse. And I did. I didn't even, where's the voice? Nothing. The insurance adjuster asked me when we went to, for the claims thing and all that stuff. When I went to the lot to meet him, he said to me, did the car get knocked in reverse? And I said, no, why? He said, you put the car in reverse? And I said, yeah, something just said, put the car in reverse. He said, if you had not done that, you and your daughter wouldn't be here because the engine would have come through the dash.
Damn.
So instead of going against her, even though I had my foot on the brake and we were stopped, instead of the car pulling against her, when she hit, we rolled backwards. So it lessened the impact.
37 surgeries.
I have had 37 back procedures and surgeries that require anesthesia.
Was there any significant injury to your children?
Nope.
That's amazing.
Nope. That's that look. That's what I asked for, right?
Right.
My babies are fine. They're all healthy women. So.
Geez, so what was kind of that process like? I always wonder, when people go through these type of traumatic injuries, how, especially, someone that estranged from family or, supportive circles. What is that process like, being incapacitated, having children to take care of, not knowing what's going on the outside, everything just kind of being out of your control. What was that like for you?
It was hell. It was hell. Doctor after doctor, appointment after appointment, this pill, this medicine, that medicine. And it was literal hell. I was in a doctor's office 3 and 4 times a week. All these tests, all this, you need this surgery, you need that done. it was hell. And raising kids, like, my kids lost part of their childhood. That was the day they lost part of their childhood.
Going through the car accident, you said your ex-husband took even more advantage of you.
Oh yeah, he took. First of all, I want to go back, and
Go
I
ahead.
want to say that we need to be careful how we speak.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we're arguing, be careful what comes out of your mouth,
I
because
agree.
that car accident, I manifested and didn't even know it. We had an argument, and I said, if I got in a car wreck and died today, you would not care. Guess what? I got in a car wreck. My life was spared because I have a purpose. And he didn't care. He went and had an affair. He didn't care. He took advantage of it.
Hold on. You got in a car accident, he went and had an affair.
Yeah.
That's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. And how did you find this out? Was he just kind
My
of like
children
sloppy,
found
didn't
out.
care?
No, my children found out. They found her photos. They
In your
found her pictures. And Mommy, who's this lady? But the funny thing is, the first time he took her out, this is way before, we were pressing the number 7 4 times just to get an S, okay? Back then, we didn't have no location and all of that stuff. But he had gone out. He said he was going with his corrections friends to a bar. They had done that before. And I was laying in bed and I'm like, no. And I dozed off and I had a dream. And when I woke up, I called him and told him where he was. He didn't pick up, so I had to leave it on voicemail. 2 minutes later, my phone rang. He was freaking the hell out because I was right. I knew exactly where he was. And I also mentioned, you're cheating. And he's like, you Wanna, no. What are you talking about? What? No, I told you I was going out with. And then when my kids found those photos,
Did he abuse your kids as well?
physically, yes. Emotionally, yes.
Are you okay to talk about that?
Absolutely.
Can you tell us some of the abuse that your kids went through from him?
He lined them up in height order one day and beat them all with a corrections belt because the kitchen floor wasn't clean enough. He would put them on punishment and take everything out of their room. I was busy hiding bruises with concealer that my children later told me they knew what was going on. Those are some of the things they went through.
Now, did you have were any of your children by him, or were these two? Okay.
Yes.
Good Lord. And everybody, even the kids you brought into the relationship, everybody got the same treatment?
Everybody got it. Even his, I had adopted his younger sister because she was being abused. And even her.
Did he have any previous children?
No.
Good Lord.
No.
Did you ever call the police on him?
What were they going to do? He was corrections.
Were you afraid?
They weren't going to do anything. He was corrections.
But were you scared? I'm asking, were you afraid?
Of calling the police?
No, were you afraid in your home?
Yes, absolutely. Every night. I
Just
never
kind of
knew. I never knew whether who it was that was going to appear that night. When you're dealing with someone bipolar schizophrenic, you don't know what personality you're going to deal with. So yes, I was afraid.
And was there any, I guess, like neglect or abuse in a sense, when you were probably at your worst medically, did you deal with any kind of like foul play, just based on your physical ability at that time?
Yes. Yes.
What did you experience?
When you're married and they say you're not supposed to say no. I said no. But he heard yes.
I'm so sorry. I'm so
And
sorry.
are you okay to talk about that? We
I
can share
am.
the word.
Look. What did I tell you? I
I,
came
I, I
here
know.
so
I try
that
to get deep. You
other
know, we like
women
to go deep.
can heal. I am here for other women to heal, and they cannot heal. Women today need authenticity to heal. They need to know that somebody's been through it.
And I've been through it too. So I
So
completely
I
understand.
am 100% transparent about it. Yes, there were nights that I said no, and he would whisper yes in my ear. It was like this sick little game he would play and go ahead and do what he wanted to do anyway.
And you would fight with him?
I would argue, I would try to push him, like, get off me kind of thing. But, again, I've got a major back injury. Even when I had my back surgery and I was in bed with a back brace on for 5 months, I was forced to perform.
He took advantage of you.
Yes.
And you were in excruciating pain?
I had just had a titanium cage installed around the base of my spine. Yeah, that's as bad as it gets.
My goodness. And personally speaking, how was like the rate of your healing? Where I'm sure which was prolonged from being in a stressful situation. What was that process like for you in getting back to as close as normal as possible?
I didn't get back to as close as normal as possible until 2 years ago. I've had renal failure. I've had all of these physical manifestations of the emotions that I would hide inside of me, of the troubles that I would hide from the rest of the world. Your body keeps it. Systems start to fail. You start getting weird diagnoses. Doctor doesn't know what's wrong because what's wrong is not necessarily in an organ. It is in your mind. And so until you heal your mind, the body is going to keep holding on to. It's like a backpack of rocks. You keep adding rocks, after a while, your back is going to be like, okay, girl, we can't carry this. So I went through all types of stuff physically. But I did, even without having much income, I found the wherewithal to leave him shortly after the 9mm incident. One of my ex-best friends had her basement redone and said the girls and I could come. And she didn't put a time limit on it. And I told her, my disability hasn't come through yet and I'm still waiting on it. And she didn't care. You want to know how the divine works, how source works, how God works? When people are in your life that aren't supposed to be, your blessings are held up. They will be held up for as long as they need to be. 3 days after departing, moving out of that house, my daughter, I went to pick her up at the bus stop and we checked the mail. And I saw the orange envelopes, so I'm thinking, oh, good, we've got a couple of $1,000s to sock away. I'm thinking it's the monthly payments. And my daughter goes, Mom, pull over. What? I got to go get your sisters. What? Mom, just pull over in this gas station. So I pull over. I'm like, what? And she's like, Mom, it's not 6,000, it's 60. I forgot about the back pay that disability gives you.
And how long? I'm sorry, how long was that process that you were waiting for it to come through?
I was waiting for it for 5 years.
Ooh, yeah, that's a blessing.
Yeah. So, but the point is, as long as that toxic person was there, God was not going to release those funds so that he could spend it.
Yeah.
He even tried to take me to court for it. And the judge was like, did you work for it? So, that's my point, that when you have the wrong people around you, you're keeping the manifestations that you want into your life to come into your life away.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask really quick, because we get information about our episodes, and some of what you shared was your traumas affected your kids.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit? How
Absolutely
traumas hurt your kids?
So me holding that secret for 32 years and only telling one person, that in itself hurt my children, because again, I chose terrible friends. I chose terrible significant others, and they suffered behind that. Less of my attention, me making poor decisions. There's a lot that my children can say I did wrong, and I accept their version of the truth. My version is irrelevant. My children's version of their truth is what matters. And until I went to my children and told them, I failed you and I fucked up, and I'm not going to say sorry, because people just say that word. But I will say, you can choose to keep me in your life or let me go. And if you let me go for the rest of my life, you would be well within your right. But your version of the truth is what the truth is. And that's how my children came back in my life. They had eliminated themselves for me for almost 2 years. And now my middle daughter just left last Tuesday. She came to spend my 50th birthday with me. My oldest daughter wanted me on the phone with her yesterday to pick out stuff for my grandkids. So there's healing happening.
That's wonderful. That's, a good a good development of things. I wouldn't say ending, but good development of things. Now, how did you come into the moniker Black Butterfly Goddess, and where did that transformation kind of take you with things?
So Black Butterfly Goddess was born out of what I call the dark night of the soul. I had tried to take my life 3 years ago on March 19th. I was in a toxic relationship and didn't know it. He never hit me. He didn't do the normal things that we're told are abuse. He would just keep me awake for days with loud noises and screaming at me. I could never do anything right. I wasn't this enough. I wasn't that enough. I could never reassure him of my love for him enough. My therapist said he checked every box for covert narcissism. I had come to DC to be beside my sister who had to bury her husband. And when I went back to Atlanta, which is where I lived at the time, everything in me, every alarm bell in your body was going off and saying, go to your house, go to your house. And even as we're taxiing down the runway, my best friend gets one last message through, why don't you go to your house tonight? And I said, I don't feel like arguing. He's already on the way to the airport. Should have just gone to my house. I got in the car and I was trying to be, super upbeat and happy because his son was in the car, and I adore his son. He is a brilliant little man. And I said, you know what? When I worked for presidential appointees, I was on call 24/7 and wanted to get the hell out of DC when I was off. I never went to any of the sites. I said, but it would be great to take him because he's so smart. The car got cold and quiet, and I knew what that meant. Argument was coming. I knew it. We got home, and I said, I went and took a shower, and I heard something say, put your phone in your pocket and hit record. And I did. First time I listened to my intuition in that relationship. At some point during the argument, it's probably 3 or 4 hours in of being yelled at, I'm a master at dissociating because of the abuse from my father. I went completely numb and I just walked in the bedroom. I looked over at the container of pills and I thought, hey, if you take them now, no one will notice. By the time they do, you'll be gone. And I said, no, don't do it. The next morning I woke up, I made myself a cup of coffee and went back in the bedroom because I'm still trying to process. My brother-in-law is gone. My sister was left with a 6-month-old King Corso. She has no idea what to do with him. And she's a puddle of jello. I'm trying to process all this. And he comes in the room and starts up the argument again about how he's not going anywhere, that I traipsed around with some other man. I don't traipse. When he came in the room and started the argument again in the morning when I was trying to just get my head together, it didn't take long for me to dissociate. And I walked over to the dresser, took the entire bottle of sleeping pills with coffee, walked in the kitchen, drank vinegar, and then put my favorite sweatshirt on and left the house. As I'm putting my sweatshirt on, hindsight's 20/20. He goes, great, now I have to go get syrup of Ipecac. I'm not paying attention to what he's saying. But in hindsight, it's like, okay, if you know that, you've been in this space before. If you know that if someone takes something and you don't want them to go to the hospital, that you go get Ipecac, you've been in this space before. But I didn't listen, and I went and I laid in the woods. And I said, I'm sorry on my phone, and I went to sleep. I woke up in the hospital, and my first thought was, damn, he's right. You are worthless. You can't even do this right. Moved back to DC with my sister. That's when I realized I was a healer. Because as I'm screaming inside, because I've left my children, I've never lived away from them. I've left the state they live in. I'm living back in the bedroom I lived in with my 1-year-old when I was 19. And she's getting better. I want to scream from the inside, but I'm not even allowed to cry around her. And so that's when I realized I was a healer. When I got in my apartment, though, my mother's voice got loud. Very loud. And she prepared me for what is now Black Butterfly Goddess. I spent 2 years pretty much between the recliner, the floor, and the bathtub, salt baths, healing myself of all of the trauma that I've discussed with you today. Simply with the help of my ancestral team, I had no one. Black Butterfly Goddess, I thought I was naming it Black Butterfly Goddess because I love butterflies, of course, as you can see, but black butterflies are rare in the US. You see them in Costa Rica and they're huge, but you don't see them here a whole lot. But as it turns out, in my mother's funny way and my ancestors' funny ways, black butterflies signify ancestral connection. So I guess I didn't name Black Butterfly Goddess as much as I thought I did. And I'm a goddess. I co-create with God. I manifest with God. I am a goddess. And I'm a healer. So that's how we landed here.
Okay, so we are at time. I want to ask one thing, and Sid, and I'll close it out. What advice, really quick, can you give someone that's going through a tough situation like you, that's been violated as a child, abusive relationships, going through the traumatic traumas of putting your trauma on your kids and healing? What advice can you give someone that's trying to seek that journey, to start their journey to healing?
Number one, you are not damaged goods. You are not worthless. You are gifted, you are needed, and you have a purpose. And number two, seek out healers. And if you're somebody who says therapy doesn't work for me, there are alternative modalities that might. Therapy didn't work for me either. But the alternative modalities that I tried helped a lot. So seek help, seek community, seek like-minded people, and take some time for self. If you find yourself in an abusive relationship, take some time off. Don't jump into anything quickly after that. Take some time, get to know you, so that your trauma doesn't spill over into your kids' lives.
All right. And as we like to do with all of our guests, we want you to participate in Shameless Plug. You see all of your information scrolling here at the bottom. Please let our viewers know how they can contact you, utilize your services. If there's any thing that you want to draw traffic to, if you have anything for sale, you have the floor.
Blackbutterflygoddess.com is my website. I'm very proud of it. I got up and just rebranded one night. I am offering webinars right now, but the one that I'm feeling called to discuss on here is I do a 4-week narcissistic recovery blueprint. And if you've been through abuse, 9 out of 10 chances that person was exhibiting narcissistic traits. And so it's a very intense course. But I promise you it will cut your healing time down to about 1/4. So my website has the webinars on it. I'll I'm also teaching about getting into your feminine energy, attracting those things you want to attract in your life. And then I've got 2 that are related to getting closer to your ancestors and your spirit guides.
All right. We want you to hold on 1 second as we close out. We want to thank you for tuning into Unfiltered, Unspoken podcast. We're going to continue to share life experiences. Ain't that right, City said?
That's right.
And thank you for sharing your amazing testimony, Tywanah, and being very transparent. I know there is much more to this. Hour is just not enough time, but it's enough time to help someone that is going through a traumatic situation such as the one that you went through.
Yes.
And hopefully your testimony will be a beacon to help them start their journey to healing, to see that they are going through
Yes.
things. So thank you for being a guest.
Thank
It's
you.
an honor to have you. And we'll see y'all soon. Peace. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube Unfiltered Unspoken podcast. Don't be afraid. People like negativity, but we're bringing positivity through healing. So you see people going from trauma to healing. This is to help. And we hope everyone starts the journey to healing, because a lot of us are flawed and we don't want to face the truths. So have a lovely evening. Peace.